Hello everyone, my name is Cyrilda Summers McGee and I am the founder and CEO of Workplace Change, and welcome to Word on the Street. Is your company culture crumbling? Well, word on the street is that it's your manager's fault. Let's get to it. All right, gang, it is easy to pick on managers and say that everything's their fault. They're kind of easy targets, right? But in the case of company culture, quite frankly, it's the manager's job to make sure the culture gets back on track. Because if not you, then who? If not the manager addressing the tensions and the inflection points, then whose job is it? It's management's job. I want to talk about one of the primary areas that I believe is causing a great big hole in company cultures, and that is the return to work, recalls, right? Virtual work environments happened. We had to do it in response to COVID. It was a necessity for those who did have the privilege to be able to work from home. It was necessary. But counter to popular, notion, that experiment is not necessarily working all that well, right? Distrust is at an all-time high. Conflicts and tensions between teams are at an all-time high. There's a great deal of distrust between the workforce and management in this experiment of full 100% virtual work. And quite frankly, a lot of organizations are coming back into the workplace, right? They are calling people back into the workplace because they need to. They need to in order to innovate, in order to, establish trust between teams, in order to optimize the output that the organization is responsible for outputting. Is necessary for people to work together. And I know you all are going to say, Cyrilda, how could you say this? It's because I'm in these streets. I am out here on the front lines talking to teams that are really going at each other just because they mostly don't trust each other. And just sitting across from each other via a Zoom box does not engender trust. It doesn't, gang. Not long term, right? I was working with a client and they requested that the workforce come back to work one day a week, right? And they could choose between Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to come back to work. One employee, lots of people were very frustrated about having to come back to work one day a week. Now, mind you, they were expected to work every single day, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, with basically no flexibility 2.5 years ago, 100% of the time. And now there's complete and absolute resistance. And the leadership shared with them the why. They did surveys to figure out what was the optimal configuration that would be in the best interest of the workforce while also meeting their business needs. And one employee reached out to me, who was one of the practitioners helping to get this thing off the ground. It was a very large organization, and they called their manager and leadership and the CEO of the organization. And I think me too. They called us stewards of supremacy culture. They said that we were ableists. They said that we were transphobic. This particular employee identified as being trans. They expressed that they were being harassed by this callback. They said that it was ableist. I mean, we got called every name under the sun, and they just kept it. They kept amplifying their perspective because they didn't want to come back to work one day a week. We asked, how can we accommodate you? What kind of accommodation do you need in order to be able to be here one day on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? They completely resisted. They said, there's nothing you can do to accommodate me because I don't want to come back, and you should not be allowed to force me to come back because that is my right to no longer have to go back into the workplace. Well, that's just not true. That's number one. But number two, it reinforces the fact that we need to spend more time together. Because and by the way, it wasn't just that person coming back, it was the whole entire organization needing to come back to work, right? This person happened to also be transgender. Okay, we respect that. But because they didn't want to do what was being asked of them, they threw everything at us under the sun. There are really transphobic environments. There are really ableist environments where if you have a disability, they will not accommodate you. This is not that employer. They wanted what they wanted. Well, if the company culture is crumbling, it requires management to step into the void and make the call. Make the call to get things back on track. Not from this, blind, from on high perspective, but in a very human-centric perspective, giving as much context as humanly possible to inform people on why and how decisions are being made from an informed position, asking people for their feedback, but making the call even when it is uncomfortable for us. And so that's my word on the street. Company cultures are crumbling, then management has to do something about it. And sometimes it's not the popular opinion. Like this video might not be popular opinion, but it is something that needs to happen. We've got to come back together, y'all. Right? Not like it was, because I don't even like how it was, right? Who did like how it was, but in some new iteration. All right, thanks for tuning into this episode of Word on the Street. If you want to jump into the chat and tell me your perspective, please do. I look forward to hearing from you soon. I'll see you next episode.